Hey, how you going? My name's Cam. I'm an illustrator, a YouTuber, and now an author. I've just written and drawn my very first book. It's called Your Head is a Houseboat, a chaotic guide to mental clarity. Essentially, it's a big illustrated journey into the center of your brain, complete with enough illustrations to give anybody a vicarious RSI. The aim of the book is to make your head a slightly nicer place to live, because essentially you'll be living there forever. Oh God. That's a bit daunting. Even more daunting is this. Osher Günsberg called it the most important and accessible mental health book in a generation. No pressure. Thanks, bro. Now, before we dive into what the book's about, I want to say a couple of words as to why I wrote it. Over the past couple of years, I've been making artworks, comics, videos, animations, and I've been sticking them online, and this has been really, really fun. Thanks to the kindness of strangers, I've managed to build a combined following of 800,000 people, and I love it. I love that I can make stuff and that people can appreciate it. But offline is actually where I've had the biggest journey. Growing up, my childhood had more drama than an English teacher's Netflix history, and so I naturally turned to drugs quite young. After a lifetime of just bouncing around from chaos to distraction, it wasn't until my late 20s when I kind of broke. You know, when you just kind of break? I got to a point where I couldn't distract myself anymore, and I actually had to look at my head and examine what was going on. And it was kind of like watching one of those deep sea documentaries where at first you're so scared, but then at the end you're just like, I did that. I went on a journey of sober, non-judgmental self-discovery, and my head went from a place that I was terrified of to a place that I really enjoy hanging out. A place that I like and a place that doesn't have to bully me. In short, I found something that I thought I'd just never find. Mental clarity. So I did the next logical thing. I wrote the book that I wish somebody could have handed me when I was younger. It's a guide to mental clarity, written and drawn by me. The book's central metaphor is that your head is, as you've probably guessed, a houseboat. Spoilers. Within your houseboat there are different compartments, and these compartments each represent a different function of your brain, which for the book, each occupy a different chapter. For example, we've got a chapter about the freeloaders that we find just laying about, not paying rent, occupying our living room. These represent other people's opinions that you've taken on board. In that chapter, you learn how to listen to them before you kick them out. Take that. You've got your wacky windshield, the distorted lens through which we see the world. This represents our cognitive biases. And then you've got the helm, the place from which you steer, which has unfortunately been co-opted by 5 really bureaucratic and picky bosses who each just bark competing orders at you. These 5 bosses represent your wants and needs, and they are not always in alignment. Let's go to the beach and play ukulele. But we have to go to work. What about the planet? We could see what our friends are doing. And if it involves fat stacks of cash and respect, bruh. Meanwhile, you're just at the helm, paralyzed as to where to take your boat. You get it. So you float down the prescriptive river of childhood into the vast ocean of adulthood, all the while trying to maintain your boat, all the while trying to clear out the clutter, pick off the barnacles, and hope that you don't sink. The metaphor continues over 12 imaginative chapters, each complete with their own very practical journaling exercise. By the end, the reader should have a clear idea of why their brain does the things that their brain does. Now, I know what some of you cynics might be thinking. Surely that's the aim of every self-help book. What sets this book apart? What I truly believe sets this book apart is the mental state that it will put you in. For a lot of people, traditional self-help books can be intimidating or corny or even condescending, and I'm trying to break that stereotype, and hopefully I'll do it without having to say fuck. Deep down, we know what my aims are, but on the surface, I want to push people's imagination into wild places, and I also want to make them laugh. I want to make this journey into your head feel playful, bizarre, and disarming, so that by the time that you do get to the journaling exercise at the end of the chapter, you're ready to think some thoughts that you've never thought before. I believe that this will truly allow people to be honest with themselves, and that, I think, is the biggest predictor of mental clarity. Basically, just in case all of that sounded like sales pitchy jargon, just imagine if Brené Brown and Dr. Seuss had to write a book together. It's a zany, practical, and compassionate guide to loving your own head. And it's hopefully pretty fun to look at too. So there it is, Your Head is a Houseboat, a chaotic guide to mental clarity. Thanks so much for listening, and have a wonderful conference. Catch ya.